Keep watching, folks. If you keep watching, there's a prop at some point and an explanation of the prop. So just before the video starts, at some point there'll be a prop. Yeah. So we watched Interstellar separately. I watched it Saturday, the day after it came out. You watched it Friday, the day it came out?
The day it came out, yeah.
Yeah, you've recorded a separate video of your initial reactions of the people you saw it with.
Yes, so that'll be up on the site soon. So that is definitely more immediate, because we recorded that like 30 minutes after the film ended.
Yeah.
So that is definitely more immediate reactions to what we thought. So if my opinions and views differ, it's because I've had time to, sit down and think about the film, because, opinions can alter as you think about things.
Exactly.
I think I was a bit more, as I remember it anyway, I was very mixed about the film. Mixed in that parts of it I really liked and parts of it I really didn't.
I disliked all of it. I watched it, and about halfway through I completely gave up, and then it just made me more and more angry from there on.
This orange juice is more interesting than some of the scenes in Interstellar.
It is. So
or into average.
Into average.
It was hardly stellar.
I would call it less than stellar, even.
Less than stellar.
So basically, Interstellar, dying Earth, Matthew McConaughey goes to save the Earth by going through a giant plot hole, and then he's in a different place, and he tries to find an Earth, a place that's habitable, because Earth isn't at some point.
As Red Letter Media points out, it should have been called Intergalactic.
Intergalactic.
Because interstellar means within our solar system.
Yeah. Well, that's not the worst thing about the film. Interstellar is very average, and it's not anywhere near as good as any explanation would make it seem.
It's definitely not as good as it thinks it is.
Exactly. If you were to describe the film, you might think, whoa, that's ambitious, I want to see that. And then you'd watch it and think, whoa, that was average.
the ambition is great. I like the idea of a dying Earth, the resources have all been used up, and humanity's on its last legs, and they send an intrepid group of astronauts out to find a planet for Earth. To find a planet for humans to live on. Oh god, where do we start?
Well, it's poorly written.
Yeah.
Incredibly poorly written.
Very ham-fisted.
Exactly. This is a natural, near enough a line of dialogue. He's at a parent-teacher conference, and then one of the teachers says that rockets are useless, needless, waste of money.
Did you know that the moon landing was made up as propaganda?
I thought that was an interesting enough idea.
Yes. No.
And then she says, well, rockets are a waste of money. You know what's a waste of money? MRI machines, which would have saved my dead wife.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, could you not have thought of a subtler way to find out the fact that she's dead?
It's Christopher Nolan. He doesn't deal in subtle human emotions because he's a robot and he doesn't understand human emotions.
Yes. This film is clearly trying to go for a Stanley Kubrick sort of cerebral, this is cerebral sci-fi.
But at the same time, it's trying to be a general audience crowd pleaser.
Yeah, I think that the main problem with the film and why it's so bad is the fact that it's trying to be all these different things at once, but just doesn't do any of it well.
Yeah.
Stanley Kubrick's 2001 is an amazing film because pretty much all of it is left. He leaves a lot to the audience, doesn't it?
One of the best films of all time, I think.
I wouldn't go that far. I would say it's within the top 200.
I think it's top 10.
I don't even think it's the best Stanley Kubrick film.
Well, okay, so you're right. Stanley Kubrick. The first half is definitely more. There's plot, kind of ish. Some guys find, essentially the first hour and a half, all that happens is some guys find a robot find a black obelisk on the moon. Yeah. And then, using the coordinates it's sent out, some astronauts go and investigate what the fuck it's all about, and then, you know all the rest of it. You know all the rest of it.
Yeah, you must have seen 2001 by now.
If you've not, you watch it.
But basically, most of that is silent. He doesn't explain everything.
He lets the visuals, it's very long takes.
Yeah.
He lets all the visuals explain itself. Like in Interstellar, there's some amazing, wonderful looking shots. Beautiful. Of tiny little speck against Saturn. And I was thinking, wow, that looks great. And then it cuts away to Anne Hathaway doing some ham-fisted dialogue.
Yeah.
And it's but that was, just keep it on that for a bit. I wanted to soak in the grandeur, and it never did.
Well, this is the thing. It's a really long film, but it never really gives you a sense of what it will be like in space.
Yeah. Which is what I thought the film was going to be.
Yeah. Well, this is the problem. The main problem, I think, is the writing, because it explains everything. Like the bit where this will be spoiler fills.
Oh, absolutely.
He falls through the wormhole, and then it turns out that at the beginning he gets messages through gravity that tell him where to go to sort of kickstart the plot, and it turns out he's the one sending messages to his daughter doing this. But it's not enough that we could sort of piece that together, which is fairly easy to do, isn't it? It does it all visually. He has to explain everything to the robot.
Yeah.
And it's like these amazing visuals of his pushing the stuff, but he talks all the way through them, and it's really distracting, isn't it?
It's like...
you just think like, we, as an audience, you can piece this together.
Yeah.
It isn't that hard to understand that he's the one sending it. It's hard to understand why, in a way, because it's fairly complex, that. But you can piece it together.
Yeah.
Like, it wouldn't have needed him to be explaining it over and over again. Or all the bits where they explain what a plot like a wormhole is.
Yeah.
My
problem is, right, this goes to establishing the film now. My thing is, I don't think they do enough to establish that Earth is in mortal peril.
Yeah. It's just one town.
It's just one little town. I'm like, okay, so there's dust everywhere, it's really badly affecting this part of America. What's the rest of the world like?
Yeah.
If it all you need is just, you know, if you want to go in the most base way possible, which is Christopher Nolan style, like a TV presenter going, you know, we're now celebrating the 50th anniversary of the riots that happened in blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And then it shows this is still going on today, and it shows civil unrest, people fighting over food, and you know, it was really stupid as well. I thought was really stupid. When they were like, well, the world doesn't need scientists anymore, it needs farmers. It's like, what? So the people who could potentially find a solution to saving the Earth, you're not going to invest in? Yeah. What? That doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't really... I think it's pretty poorly established what the actual future's like. So, there's no sort of unrest at all, really. There's no real scenes of crowds disrest, is there?
Yeah.
At the beginning, anyway.
All you need is just scenes of people fighting over food and, like, you know, riots and... You know, like sea levels rising, and you know, make it a more dramatic opening to draw us in a bit.
Well, all it shows really is dust.
Dust, yeah. Which I like the idea. The visuals are really lovely. They're really nice. I like the little things where, you know, like before dinner they're always brushing the tables, and we always have the dinner plates upside down so there's no dust on it, and all the little intricacies and little details that I liked. But it's like, okay, so this community seems a bit shit. What's the rest of the world like? Because this is not just a problem that affects that little town. Yeah. It's the whole world.
Yeah, there's no sense of scale to it, and it feels like someone had written all the sci-fi stuff first, and then gone back and thought, oh shit, we've got to establish some stakes here.
It's interesting because I've heard originally this film was meant for Steven Spielberg.
I think he would have been a much, much better director of this material.
He could have handled all the more kind of sentimental and...
Well, I think he would have actually established a good reason to care about the daughter Matthew McConaughey stuff.
Because Spielberg, I think more than Nolan, he understands audiences.
Yeah.
I think the problem with this film is, like we've said, you could either gone with this is the exact same problem with Gravity. You could either gone with a pure experience film like 2001 or Zardoz.
Yeah.
Or
any of those kind
Silent Running, or, you know. Yeah. Just a pure science fiction experience where you're lost in space. Or you go for something that's a bit more crowd pleasing.
Yeah.
You don't go for both. Spielberg is definitely in the former camp. He's definitely in the camp of trying to please his audience. He's always thinking about the audience and how they're going to respond. And I think if it was done that way, you know, audiences would have been sucked in more. They would have, you know, really seen the grandeur of space, and but it gets bogged down in the technicalities, which I ultimately don't care about. I'm like, okay, well, you've done your research, great. You know, I could have watched a fucking documentary about that.
Yeah.
You know, you go to the movies or blockbuster movies anyway. You know, it's, you know, I don't know. I hate his use. I hate Christopher Nolan's use of exposition in films. It's just so ham-fisted and obvious, and it's pretentious ultimately.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's like, oh well, you know, if you went through a wormhole, this is what would happen. And it's like, what does that prove? Besides from you've seen a couple documentaries on the Sci-Fi Channel.
Yeah, it was. I said I didn't like much of. Also, so the structure of it and all is pretty repetitive.
Yeah.
There's 3 planets that are possibly habitable by people, and they go to the first one, and there's a big time jump in the film and all, which for some reason was kept a lot out of the press, even though it was fair. You could really
fairly obvious. Yeah.
Well, this is a problem again. He basically, everything that happens is sort of made obvious early on by some giveaway dialogue. So instead of trusting the audience to go along with the twists and turns, there's like some piece of dialogue which is really obvious to what's going to happen. So he's with his daughter and he's like, me and you could be the same age. And instantly you're going to go, oh yeah, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, like, again, the idea that if, you know, because of the way gravity works, you're on a planet and, you know, time works in different ways.
Yeah.
So, you know, like an hour on this planet is like, was it 7 years on Earth?
Yeah.
That's a great idea. Especially adding to the whole crisis of, like, oh, holy shit, we need to get back to Earth because, you know, it's dying.
Yeah.
You know, like, the film tries to be a ticking clock. Oh, my God, speaking of pacing, you know what scene I really hate?
What?
Really, really hated? Well, it's the god-awful scenes with Matt Damon on the planet where they're fighting, intercutting with the drama back on Earth when she's staring listlessly around her old bedroom.
The intercutting though is dreadful.
It's awful, isn't it? There's no like he's used that technique before to create tension, like in Dark Knight, you know, where like the Joker having a conversation with Two-Face, and then it shows Gary Oldman about to go down to the sewers with the SWAT team going, and then Joker's like, well, you know, this could happen, and then Batman's, you know, like stalking around.
He uses the technique a lot. In Dark Knight Rises, the entire end is like it's intercut with Batman and Bane fighting, and then Gary Oldman and trying to get onto the truck, yeah.
To stop the nuclear bomb.
Yeah, give it that. That is a more effective use of tension because, and I'm going to give the Dark Knight Rises props for something that it's done.
Oh my God.
There's actually equal amounts of time spent with both, but the scenes back home are like 5 minutes, and the Matt Damon one's about 50.
I probably it's like in each scene back and not much happens. The guy's like, oh, you better come back quick. You better come back soon. And then she's like looking around the room like, and you're meant to be like, oh my God.
Is she going to find out what's happening?
If the cuts were faster in between, I wouldn't have minded so much, but...
It just feels arbitrary, doesn't it? It feels like they didn't know how to get the material in any other way than just cutting little bits in.
So I think I was with the movie. I was having problems and issues, but I was with the movie until about halfway through, when the twist happened. The twist. When Michael Caine, after the time skip thing, when Michael Caine in the future, who looks exactly the same as he did 23 years...
But he's in a wheelchair.
Oh yeah, that makes him look older. He's like... Because the whole idea of going into the space was there's going to be two plans. Plan A, find a habitable planet, and then bring the rest of Earth's citizens to this habitable planet.
Yeah.
If failing that, Plan B... You set up a colony of humans using these frozen fertilised eggs, which Anne Hathaway's looking after.
Yeah.
We'll go on to Anne Hathaway as well later.
Yeah. There's a really bad pun to be made there.
Oh yeah.
She'd look after my eggs.
So, if I was Matthew McConaughey, I was like, well, you know, NASA doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
You don't really have much of a budget to make more spaceships. You've established that this is pretty much one of the last spaceships that'll ever be made. How are we going to get all these humans to this habitable planet? This seems a bit odd. Michael Caine should have been like, oh, bloody hell, you know, I'm doing this grand equation for 23 years.
Well, it establishes that he knew the grand equation wouldn't work.
Yeah, it's like, what?
But what I don't get is the fact that it does one of them annoying things where someone has an epiphany, which is fairly obvious. Yeah. Right, she's like, time? It does the thing where someone verbalises the thought process in a condescending way, like, time? Time's the missing piece. It's like, so he spent 23 years and couldn't crack something you managed to find out by someone saying somebody must have said the word time in Michael Caine's presence.
But oh god, you know what is the worst scene in the film?
What?
I decided, by the way, Anne Hathaway is not a good actor.
I think if she has, to be fair, the material is dreadful.
I've not seen a single film where I thought, wow, Anne Hathaway, yeah, good performance.